Morning, folks. Appreciate your checking in with me today. Uh, this is going to be a pretty quick video. I just wanted to share with you some advice that my dad gave me. Uh, this is probably advice that I got maybe I was 12, 13 years old, 15 years old. I don't even know anymore. But I was a young kid just learning how to bass fish. And it was about the same time that plastic worms came out. And so the best advice anyone ever gave me was the advice he gave me when it came to worm fishing. I can still remember, and I just kind of close my eyes and drift back, but I can still remember being in the boat with him, and we're going along a shoreline, and some brush piles, a couple of fallen trees, and we're up in Ohio. It's springtime or maybe early summer. And plastic worms hadn't been around that long, but they were out there, and they had kind of progressed from their original state of being a three hook harness with a little spinner on the front to where you could just buy the worms themselves. And I can remember we would rig it up in a Texas rig, which made it pretty much weedless, put a little weight on the top. Sometimes we'd use a couple of split shots. Sometimes we'd use a cone-shaped lead sinker. But either way, it was just the intent was just to be able to get it to sink so that we could work it along the bottom. But I remember going out with him one time and we were fishing worms, plastic worms. And he was catching one fish after another. And I was fishing, kind of behind him and I couldn't seem to figure out when to set the hook. I knew I was getting some hits, but I just couldn't really figure out when I needed to set the hook. And I'll never forget, he turned around one day from the front of the boat and he said, Don, he said, I want you to pay attention here. He said, there are certain things that happen when that bass picks up your worm. But he said, I want you to remember this. He said, the first time you feel a tap, I want you to set the hook. If you don't, the second time you feel a tap, that's the bass spitting the worm out. So the first tap, he's swallowing it or grabbing it, putting it in his mouth. That's when you want to set the hook. The second time you feel a tap, he's spitting it out. So it's too late. And the third time you feel a tap, it's me smacking you in the back of the head for not hooking that fish. So anyway, that's the best advice I've ever gotten. I've never forgotten that. I've shared that advice with a lot of folks. And the reality is, there's a lot of truth in that. I've watched bass in aquariums, and I've watched them suck that worm in and blow it out almost at the same time. And if you had that hooked on and you were holding a fishing rod, you'd have felt a tap the first time and a tap the second time. And the only thing missing would have been a tap in the back of your head from my old man. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that short little story. If you did, give me a thumbs up. And you may have a moment of your own where you receive some really good advice. I'm carrying that one with me to the grave. So please, if you would, share your great advice. And if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks, and wish you a great day.